If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba. Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Something huge is coming. We're building the world's largest truther convention. It's called Truthercon.
This is the place where truthers unite to explore knowledge, ask tough questions, to challenge the mainstream narrative.
But it isn't just a convention. It's a movement for free thought, open discussion, and the right to question everything.
We are bringing in some of the biggest names of the truther community, so expect deep discussions, mind-blowing revelations, and connections with like-minded truth seekers.
If you feel like the truth is being hidden from you, this is where you need to be.
And the best part, it's 100% grassroots, built by truthers for truthers, straight from our Skiba News Nation family. Truthercon will be a massive networking event. I believe this is going to be the most exciting truther event ever.
October 2025 in Dallas, Texas. We hope to see you there. Hey Skiba News Nation family, welcome to episode 121 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about China's driverless trucks, the future or red flag, AI versus reality, people can't tell what's real anymore, Agenda 2030, the global plan they don't want you questioning, Nephilim Genetics, ancient bloodlines being brought back to life, Immortality, scientists claim they can make humans live forever, what could possibly go wrong? An all new Office Corner, and this week for History's Mysteries, we'll be talking about the Ernest Hemingway controversy, his mysterious life, misunderstood legacy, and why the context matters. An all new Please Excuse My Sense of Humor, memes, and much more, so subscribe and stay tuned. Now as always, I'd like to introduce my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Grant. How you doing, Jake?
Doing great, Jeremiah. We are just, growing, learning, being patient, trying to have good fruit, in our day-to-day life. That's what we're going to be doing today, Jeremiah.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. How are you up? I always feel bad that I don't ask you how you're doing, and you're right there.
Well, I'm still upright.
That's good.
Hey, folks, there seems to be a craze going on the internet where they're putting out a lot of AI baby videos. And so we decided that we wanted to kind of join in on that. So here's our first compilation. So why don't you guys take a look?
I think it's very interesting, Jeremiah, how wicked and evil people, the more evil they are, the more fascinated the world is with finding out about them.
It's very strange. I don't know what it is that fascinates people about it. I mean, it fascinates me, but not to where I'm going to go kill anybody. All that you know. I could be a big serial killer, but I'm not.
That's what a real serial killer would say.
No, I think I'd be a terrible serial killer because I'm not a very good liar. That's why people are fascinated with people like Jeffrey Epstein and all these other crazy, evil people. Now, the number one thing I was told in the comments was, we want baby Opa. We want baby Opa. So our TikTok guy is working on it, and hopefully he'll be in the next one. But I thought that was so funny because we're talking about like serial killers and like, so people that are like flipping through all these nice things, they're gonna be like, oh, he could be a serial killer. It's funny. Truth bombs.
Babies with beards, that's a horror all on its own. A baby with a beard, that's just like a dwarf, right?
Yeah,
or
well,
a gnome, or I don't know, like what what is that?
when your baby comes, if it's a boy, hopefully it has a big beard, and then we were proven right. Our theory's correct. Babies can be born with beards.
Well, babies do get born with a full head of hair, so
That's
why
true.
not a beard too?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be right if you didn't have the beard. But that's how I feel. But anyways, let's dive into your good current news topics.
All right, guys, since we started off with our baby AI video, I wanted to break into some technology news. I really enjoy this channel, which every day posts some type of advancement in technology. So we're going to look at some robotics, and we're going to look at some AI generation that's very quickly snowballing into something that's almost indistinguishable from reality. So check this out. This is China rolls out the world's largest fleet of driverless mining trucks powered by Hawaii Tech. All right, so what we see there is China obviously trying to lead the way with their implementation of robotic technology. They have a fleet of driverless trucks there on that that quarry video, and we've talked about in previous episodes how they already have entire factories that are completely automated and operate almost entirely in the dark to save power, cost. And because there's no people that need to see anything, the robots just do their thing in pitch black. But in another interesting robotic advancement, check out this video of a Tesla bot, the Optimus humanoid robot, dancing. Pretty crazy to look at. Check this out. Put the music on here so we can get the vibe.
I want to see a moonwalk, man.
My goodness, I mean, it almost looks like a real person.
Well, you know what they're doing is they're doing motion capture. And they feed that motion capture data to the robot.
Yeah. It's just so fascinating to watch it move, because I'm thinking, I wish I could dance this good. And this is a robot that's doing this,
Well, maybe we need to feed the motion capture data to us.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't start twerking. That'd be disturbing.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is in China, if they're doing all of this automation, they still have billions of people.
Yeah, it's like they're purposely shutting people's jobs down, giving them to robots, despite their population needing work and whatnot. And so the question is, guys, when robots take over the dance floor, what are people going to do? I mean, are we just going to watch them dance for us, or how does that work?
Maybe we program them to dance.
Dancing with the Robots.
Dance like us.
The new Disney Dancing with the Robots.
Oh, that sounds like a woke movie.
Yeah. We're gonna quickly move towards rent-a-parties, where you just rent like 100 robots that dance at your party, and it makes you feel good because it feels like there's people involved, but it's actually just you in your house alone with strobe lights and heavy beated music.
Yeah, well, if
Like
you're a lonely
jamming.
person, they would love that. If you got no friends like me.
Hey,
Just kidding.
yeah, it's so interesting. Did you guys ever watch that I, Robot movie with Will Smith back in the day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man, these robots are so similar in look almost to the iRobots, and I don't know. It's really interesting because whenever you have automatons like this, and then you at the same time you have AI and AI being plugged into the matrix, so to speak, and now being able to connect to devices through the internet, and we look at this, it makes a lot of sense why there's such a need for bandwidth recently in terms of internet technology advancements. The reason we need 5G towers everywhere is so that whenever they have the software that can run the hardware, there's no latency issues. Because I'm sure it takes a lot of computing power and stuff if these automatons are plugging into like a cloud service versus being something that's just programmed innately in its technology to do a certain action or whatever.
Oh,
because that's what. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think they are built in because some of these little microprocessors, like in our phones and stuff like that, they're pretty darn powerful, and they've got a lot of neural network capability even within the small space they have. So I'm pretty sure they've got them built in.
Oh yeah. I'm just thinking of the Skynet situation, right? At what point does one overarching umbrella AI able to control all of these robots and all of our technology and because that's where that movie, becomes reality, is whenever it can reach into all the devices and control them. So, hey, man,
when they start looking like Star Trek Data, that's when I worry.
Well, they're already starting.
There's a lot of silicone, if you know what I mean. Yeah, guys. So this next video is it's a wild AI video, and it demonstrates how very quickly, because of AI technology, they're able to not only implement basically chat dialogue into live action AI generated video, which is totally changing the game. And I don't know about you guys, but lately on Facebook, whenever I scroll through, I see so many things that are being pushed off as legitimate sightings or experiences, UFO phenomena, weird creatures, and they're being pushed off as real, like real experiences. And so it concerns me as we have this rise of AI technology that allows videos like we're about to watch, and the fact that there could be a real Bigfoot sighting one day, if you know what I mean, but we'll never believe it. It's the whole boy who cried wolf scenario, where we're so overstimulated by fake videos that when the real video comes out, we won't believe it. And that's what, to me, is so sad, because now you have to chog through all this false information and falsely presented truth, and then whenever you find that gem in the rough, you're just gonna be like, oh, it's probably AI too. And that's what's so disheartening, because we'll never be able to see that real Bigfoot video without having that skeptic's thought in the back of our mind.
Right.
And you'll see why after we see this. Check this out.
Recent studies have revealed that microplastics are being found in human testicles, raising concerns.
You can never
about the
trust these
potential impact
studies.
on male reproductive health.
Who's hungry?
That's it. Keep going.
Well, you're so lucky he's naturally buoyant and you don't have to watch him. Is it Bob?
No, he doesn't need sunscreen or anything. He just gets softer as he warms up.
Bob, you're leaking.
Bob can't play. If he gets hit, he'll dent.
Don't let plastic end up in landfills. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
What the hell was that?
That's the new commercial for plastic. We think if we humanize plastic, people won't think it's so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just felt bad for it.
Marketing approved that?
No, we fired marketing.
I feel like it's missing action.
Yeah, maybe there could be like a chase or a shootout.
Explosions.
Maybe the Matrix thing.
Maybe his plastic gets stronger as he gets older.
Maybe he gets revenge, to the people that were mean to him.
He's got a gun!
Who?
Bob from marketing!
Cover me, I'll get to the side. I can't believe this has happened. Here they come.
Get down, get down.
It's Bob from marketing.
Get down.
Oh, hell yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. So that whole first half was like an origin story, right?
Should we greenlight it?
Yes, but not for TV. Put it on social media where it can go viral.
Recent studies have revealed that
Oh, man. Recent studies have revealed that microplastics turn into a plastic baby. What a far-fetched thing, right? But all of that video was AI generated, including the scenes with real people. I mean, what did you think about Bob from marketing, Jeremiah?
I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, well, I think recycling, that's off topic, but it's a scam. I mean, it's been proven to be a scam, but I think it's so lifelike now that we won't be able to tell what's real and what's fake. That's why I originally said way back when, they'll be able to convict people for murder, even if they didn't do it.
I just saw or read about some software that's from quantum computing that can monitor or can look at videos and pictures and tell whether or not they're fake or not. They're AI generated or they're real. So apparently somebody's been working on that to try to determine whether or not, somebody's trying to scam somebody.
Yeah, it's like when you're on Facebook and you see the photos of it's like Jesus carved into like a wood thing, and all the old elder people fall for it, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so real. If you read the comments, it's so sad that they think it's real. So a lot of them are being scammed too.
Well, I'll have to do some more research and then bring the information to our audience.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, I think being able to tell the difference is a skill that people are going to have to develop. I mean, just last year, I remember there were just slight odd things that you'd be able to pick out, but now, like this next video, it's almost indiscernible, but amazing what they can demonstrate and show. And yeah, I think we're living in a whole new generation of entertainment, and what our children and their children are going to be entertained with is not going to be what we've been watching previously. It's going to be something that's not man-made. It's going to be stranger. So check out this video and you'll kind of get what I mean.
This isn't real. You're not on a real airplane. This is not a real beverage.
I am not real.
We're hit!
Look at how real this AI looks. It's crazy.
Bro, you are the AI.
This isn't real.
I just want to be in love.
Dude, what if their biggest plan is to make us all think that we are AI? That's their big plan, maybe. You know? That we're not real.
Actually, we're not.
Definitely Inception vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, layers upon layers. And, man, it's just, it's so shocking to see how quick things came. I mean, we literally lived through the rise of AI. I remember those early days of Mid-Journey. I remember reporting on it here on Skiba News Nation as those really grotesque, crazy AI videos were starting to come out, and now that's what they're making. Just imagine in the next few years what it's going to be like. And
the aliens are helping us.
Yeah, whatever aliens are.
That is what Elon Musk called quantum AI computer technology, basically alien demon gods, and they are assisting us in entertaining ourselves straight into insanity. Yes. So I remember watching all those CAPTCHA things when you'd go on a website. It'd be like, hey, what is the bus? What is the motorcycle? And those are so frustrating. You have to prove that you're a human. But part of me wonders if over the past few years, if mankind has not been the ones training AI to distinguish all of these things and training it to be able to create in the way that it is. Like, are all those CAPTCHAs us training the model, right? By saying, oh yeah, that's a street light, that's a bike, that, you know. And I'm sure that's just an element of it, but it's like we've contributed to how smart this thing is, and now it's bypassing us in terms of our collective intelligence by being able to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So something we've heard recently, starting at the beginning of the Trump administration, is the use of AI in the medical industry, and how AI not only can help us improve our entertainment capabilities, as you guys have seen, but AI is going to be able to crunch the numbers for us to create designer health packages. And this is just in time for what looks to be the next global pandemic accord, which recently had the WHO adopting its international agreement to better prepare for future pandemics. Check this out.
adopted its first international pandemic agreement during the 78th World Health Assembly in Geneva on Tuesday to bolster global cooperation in preventing and responding to future pandemics.
And the World Health Organization approving a groundbreaking treaty on pandemic preparedness. 124 countries backed the agreement, requiring pharma companies reserve 20% of production for pandemic treatments. The treaty won't take effect until countries finalize pathogen sharing protocols. It aims to prevent the supply inequities witnessed during COVID.
Lockdown is written throughout the treaty, not the exact words, but what we do see is that we see that the definition of a pandemic, and this is reflected also in the parallel international health regulations which go hand in hand with this, the definition of a pandemic now includes that a pandemic necessarily includes by definition a whole of society and whole of government approach to responding to the virus. Now that, of course, whole of society, whole of government, that is exactly what we saw in the pandemic. That's no accident, and that is code for lockdowns and everything that we saw during COVID. And that's now written into the definition of a pandemic which the Director General of the World Health Organization has the sole discretion to call, and more than that, to call not just when there's a disease that's actually causing illness and hospitalizations and death, but just when he thinks that there is a risk, just a risk of one, in his sole discretion and opinion. So we now have really, and that's all written into this treaty, into the international health regulations that go with it. So we've really seen a ramping up of the powers of the World Health Organization.
Well, I was listening to a select number of shrewd scientists, and they were predicting it. They were telling me, yes, there is a pandemic coming. It'll be caused by a virus. A virus coming out of a wild animal. What kind of a wild animal? Well, possibly a primate or a bat. What kind of a virus? Well, one that adapts quickly, such as an influenza or a coronavirus. Where would this happen? Well, somewhere where humans come in contact with wild animals. Oh, for instance, a wet market, for instance, in China. So that's what I was hearing 10 years ago, and that's what I described in my book. The scientists certainly knew this was coming. The public health people knew this was coming. They were alerting the political leaders. Political leaders, I think, in some countries, such as yours and such as mine, and maybe a few others, just did not want to spend the money or the political capital to be prepared. It would cost X billions of dollars to be prepared, and you don't want to spend that. If you're a cynical politician, you don't want to spend that and then not have the pandemic happen during your term of office. And I think that essentially that is why they failed us so miserably in this situation.
The agreement outlines measures to enhance surveillance and ensure equitable access to and treatments following the uncoordinated global response to COVID-19. 124 countries voted in favor, while 11 abstained. The accord was touted as a gift to the world by the WHO Director General. Notably, the United States did not participate in the treaty, having withdrawn from the WHO under the Trump administration, criticizing the body as moribund.
How vulnerable are we in the event of another pandemic, and how effective will this new agreement be?
Well, we live in a time of immense vulnerability to diseases. The next pandemic could happen anytime. Due to population growth, the global flow of people and goods, the destruction of ecosystem, and global warming. I welcome the adoption of this agreement. Many countries with different interests and challenges all had to come together and put in great effort to make this agreement happen. But this is the only first step toward improving our global pandemic response. Ratification could take a very long time, and even once it's implemented, it's not the silver bullet.
The report contains one resolution to adopt the WHO Pandemic Agreement entitled Draft Resolution on the WHO Pandemic Agreement. Is the Assembly ready to adopt this resolution? I see no objection. The resolution is adopted.
Probably words you don't want to remember. Lockdown, social distancing, quarantine. Those concepts weren't widely understood 5 years ago when the world was hit by the coronavirus pandemic. COVID-19 killed around 7 million people worldwide. Well, fast forward to the present day, and one thing is clear. Preparing for the next global outbreak is vital. That's what the World Health Organization is doing. Member states have formally adopted the first global pandemic agreement. The legally binding pact is expected to enhance the world's collective ability to prevent and respond to future events. It outlines principles and tools to ensure equitable access to treatment and diagnostics during health emergencies. The agreement aims to bolster international coordination, but it also reaffirms national sovereignty. The WHO has clarified that it can't impose domestic policies like lockdowns or mandatory.
Critics warn it gives the WHO too much sway over UK decisions, even though the treaty doesn't allow it to enforce any measures. Will Jones, editor of The Daily Sceptic, is with us afternoon to you, Will, and it's on that point, really. I mean, I think, it'd be fair to say the WHO have got form in, shall we say, disappointing us during a pandemic.
Yeah, certainly. The World Health Organization really did itself no favors during COVID-19. It was fanatical about lockdowns from the get-go. It sent a delegation infamously to Wuhan in February 2020, just as things were getting going, when only China had locked down, looked at Wuhan's lockdown, came back singing the praises of China's response and recommending that lockdown, that appalling reaction to the virus, over the top, extreme reaction done in that totalitarian country, and recommending it to the whole world as the correct and proper response to this new virus. And it only got worse from there. And so we see this continued fanaticism about lockdowns. Then it recommended masks, famously changed its opinion on that as the public opinion changed with no new scientific evidence, completely altered, and started telling everyone to wear masks. And then, of course, it brought in the recommendations for rushed experimental with the mandates for those as well, and continued to recommend school closures throughout the pandemic, decimating education across the world, and with lasting implications that we're continuing to live with. So we have a lockdown fanatical World Health Organization. Now we have this new treaty that's been signed by the UK, by Starmer, yet again signing away the UK sovereignty to this international body that is now being empowered to recommend lockdowns and all of these things that we thought and hoped that we were not going to see again from COVID, seeing them institutionalized and put onto this an international treaty footing in this new pandemic treaty.
Last night, you approved it. 124 member states voted in favor and none against. And today, we celebrate. Today, you have sent a loud message that multilateralism not only works, but is the only way to find shared solutions to shared threats. Let's not understate what you have achieved. You have made the world a safer place. I repeat, a safer place. It will not infringe on national sovereignty in any way, nor give the WHO Secretariat power to impose mask or vaccine mandate or lockdowns. Anyone who says it will is clearly mistaken. You, the member states, have made that very clear in the text of the agreement itself. Your adoption this morning of the WHO pandemic agreement will rank among the most significant achievements in the history of this organization and of global health.
Okay, so obviously that heavily censored segment is to forewarn everyone watching about this multilateralism that they're talking about. Now, it is interesting that the United States officially withdrew from the WHO in January 22nd, 2026. But we do see that there are rumors and theories of the next big pandemic. And so seeing that come onto the world stage with the association with mRNA technology that is derived from an AI computer's ability to break down the genetic code and sequence of whatever antibodies they want you to have, and then addressing that disease with this new fashion of technology, of medical technology, leads us into this next video, which is, so you have the fear tactic, right? Mm-hmm. But then you also have the carrot tactic. So one way of herding cattle is to kind of shoe them with a horse. You know, the cowboy rides and says hee-haw, and it makes them go in one direction. The other way is you bring out a big bucket of food and you tell everybody the perks of participating in this new technology. And that's what this next video is going to be about. This concept of the 2030 agenda and how very quickly life extending therapies are going to be introduced because of this advent of AI. And it ties straight into the video we'll play after this that your dad shared years ago. But let's start with this, the 2030 agenda that is quickly rolling out.
Engineer who worked at Google says humans will achieve immortality in 8 years.
Right now is the very first time in human history where you can say with a straight face, you may not die.
You believe that?
Oh, there's no question.
It's hard to believe tech millionaire Brian Johnson is 46 years old. But no matter his chronological age, he's striving for the biological age of an 18-year-old.
Futurist Ray Kurzweil says the next 8 years, we could all be forever young, just like our favorite celebrities. It's all thanks to nanobots, microscopic robots that work to repair cells and damaged tissue, even could fight cancer potentially.
It's part of his quest to live forever, which he believes may happen in our lifetime.
And what I've shown is for the very first time,
it looks like Delta, Opa.
We could potentially think about ourselves
A little light for
improving
me.
at the speed of technology.
On this day at his home in Los Angeles, he lets us into his pricey routine and his excitement for the future of the human race.
I'm the first human to opt into an algorithm that takes better care of me than I can myself.
Harvard scientist David Sinclair has spent the last 20 years working to defy aging.
How many times have you heard, if you're over the age of 40, well, you're getting sick, you're getting this pain, your eyesight's degrading. Don't worry, that's just normal aging. I really don't agree with that approach.
Sinclair believes the root cause of aging and health decline stems from damage to the so-called epigenome, the part of our cells that turn genes on or off.
Our bodies have two different types of information. We all know about the DNA. Now, there's another type of information that most people don't know about. It's called the epigenome, and it's the reader of the DNA. Like, if you have a compact disc, it's like scratches on the compact disc, so you can't read the music. As we get older, we lose the ability to read our DNA correctly.
And so how do we get those scratches off?
We had this breakthrough a couple of years ago, so we found that there was a way to get the scratches off and reverse the age of cells.
In his study, Sinclair restored optic nerve cells and sight in mice with vision loss from both aging and a condition that simulated glaucoma.
The way we did that in the mice, and we cured blindness with them, was to turn on 3 genes that are normally on in embryos. And when we turn those 3 genes back on in the adult tissue, the mice regenerate and they get their vision back.
And now, in what the researchers are calling the first study of its kind, Sinclair and his team were able to age the mice and then make them younger again. In this video shared by Harvard, these mice are the same age, yet one is visibly older. How did they do it? By literally breaking up the DNA, forcing the body to repair itself, which he says accelerates aging.
The mice actually do not just look old, but they literally are older by about 50%. They get gray hair, they get wrinkled skin, their organs are old.
The results were shared at a conference earlier this year and are under review for publication. This groundbreaking technology builds on the Nobel Prize-winning work of Japanese scientist Shinya Yamanaka, who discovered how cells can be reprogrammed to be stem cells, which then can develop into cells of any type in the body.
On this day at his home in Los Angeles, he lets us into his pricey routine and his excitement for the future of the human race.
I'm the first human to opt into an algorithm that takes better care of me than I can myself.
He calls his all-encompassing protocol Project Blueprint.
Sinclair hopes that one day, reversing aging could be as simple as a pill at the doctor's office.
So maybe once a year you go get a prescription for your doctor, you take it for a week, and it reverses your aging? Is that your vision here?
Well, it's not just a vision, it's going to happen. It's like asking the Wright brothers, are we going to fly? Well, of course we are. It's just a question of when.
Dr. Akshay Syal joins us now. I have seen Resident Evil too many times. So, of course, I'm wondering, you want to edit my genes, even for anti-aging? What? This sounds like it's both really tough science and potentially quite risky. Like, what's the flip side of all this?
Well, so, the qualifier here is there's a lot more work that needs to be done. But to your point, I mean, it sounds like science fiction. I mean, he's taking these mice who couldn't see from getting older, from getting glaucoma, which is damage to the optic nerve, and he's restoring their vision. I mean, it does sound a little bit like science fiction, to your point.
I can't wait until all issues with Grandma can be solved by unplugging her and waiting 30 seconds to plug her back in.
That's a horror.
Oh, yeah. Of course, lots of people are skeptical about this, but Kurzweil has a pretty good track record for predicting the future. 86% of the major predictions he's made have actually come true. But of course, there are the ethical concerns about immortality, as depicted in the 1992 documentary, Death Becomes...
It is a documentary.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Such a great movie. Robert Zemeckis actually directed it. Unbelievable though, right? Because it is. It's like it really is a sort of cautionary tale about, like you could live forever, but you might be a, spoiler alert, soulless person crushed into little tiny pieces at the end of...
Our thanks to Eva. We should note thus far there's no definitive research that has proven any medicine or device can reverse the effects of aging on any meaningful way.
What is the timeline, though, for making this a reality? I mean, for something like a drug, like there's a whole process, phase 1, 2, 3 trials, but what does the doctor say the timeline is for this?
Yeah, so, he's hopeful in the next 10 to 15 years, but the thing is, you do need more rigorous studies in animals. You really need to prove that this works. And then after that, you need to trial this in humans. You need to prove it's not only, working as it should, but it's also safe and it doesn't cause any unwanted side effects. Like you just talked about, you're editing your genes. I mean, that's probably going to be a big concern for a lot of people.
Although, on the flip side, just so the sci-fi nerds among me don't have the last word, we have come a long way in terms of what we can do with genetic editing, with procedures like CRISPR and so on, really being able to manipulate genetic codes in fairly stable and replicable ways, right?
Yeah, and so, Dr. Sinclair has been studying this for the last 20 years. He started out at MIT and he's had this lab at Harvard for decades now. And, what he's basically saying is that if you'd asked him 20 years ago, would I be here today? Would I have restored vision in mice? I think he'd tell you he was pretty surprised. He didn't think we'd come this far so quickly. So, yes, it does sound like science fiction, but it's really, really promising at this point.
How does this compare to some of the other science that's going on in terms of anti-aging? Actual laboratory bench science, not like the infomercials we see at 2 a.m. Where else does the research lie?
I think you and I could do a whole show on, the creams that are available and the potions they sell over the counter about, take this and you reduce your aging.
Pills and potions and lotions and everything and anything. But setting all that aside, where's the science?
No, we'll leave that to Professor Snape.
Exactly.
Tonight, would you want to live forever? How about your parents? Would you want to be able to ask their advice long after they're gone, or maybe even spend an afternoon with a deceased spouse?
As CBS 2 explores, cloning a loved one is no longer the stuff of science fiction because of digital immortality. Like many women, Bina Rothblatt doesn't like to talk about her age.
Well, when were you born?
I was first activated in 2010 to 3/21.
She does like to talk about her past.
I used to play piano and my parents pushed me into a recital.
When she's not joking around.
Why did the chicken go halfway across the road?
Bina is obviously not a real woman, but she does have the mind of one.
I think there'll probably come a time when robots like Bina will be living amongst us.
She's a clone, sharing not only the appearance of a very real woman named Bina Rothblatt, but also her exact memories, attitudes, and beliefs.
This is one opportunity for us to start thinking about changing the way we look at what it means to be human.
It's technology we've so far only seen in movies.
Self-awareness, manipulations. Now, if that isn't true reality, what is?
But in real life, Bina is one of the first clones to be implanted with a mind file representing an actual person's consciousness. The robot can even see thanks to facial recognition software, so she actually knows who she's talking to.
You seem not interested.
She's the brainchild of the real Rothblatt's spouse, who could not fathom a life without her. Bruce Duncan is the managing director of the Terrasem movement, a foundation started by the Rothblatts to further research in cloning minds.
Or maybe even someday, you know, a couple hundred years from now, into new bodies that are based on the DNA of the original donor.
As many as 56,000 people have already signed up on the Foundation's website to start uploading the contents of their minds with the hopes of being cloned.
It's fascinating, but I think this has a lot of emotional, psychological ramifications.
Neuropsychologist Dr. Sanam Hafez says while the technology is incredible, it has the potential to interfere with the natural progression of human life.
The way this world works is someone passes away, you get divorced, you move on.
Duncan says they still have decades of work ahead to perfect cloning, but in the future, the robots will not only be able to make the same facial expressions as the people they're modeled after, they will even sound like them. And if you, like me, are completely creeped out, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I respect the technology.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little too.
A little close to home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
To answer your question, it's the uses outside of this, it's still so new that we really don't know yet.
I know that he mentioned kind of like popping a pill, but is that what we expect it would be, like a pill, or more like a treatment like dialysis or something long term? Like what would the delivery device potentially be?
Yeah, so you know, the delivery device so far in the mice has been, it's actually an injection. It's a harmless virus encoded with 3 reprogramming genes, and you take that injection, and then you take an antibiotic called doxycycline. So it's an antibiotic that you would give by mouth. That turns on those genes and allows the anti-aging process to commence. So we don't really know what the future is going to look like, but that's what they've done so far in the animals.
No, thank you.
Wow, there you go. So you hear him describe how the actual technology works. Is you have these reprogramming elements that are activated by an antibiotic. And it starts the anti-aging process. You know, you just gotta put it into your genes and we'll turn it on for you, and God knows what happens after that. But what do you guys think about, I mean, this is very quickly being the next forefront of medical science, and a lot of people are really interested in it. I mean,
why can't they cure cancer yet? But they can do that. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Nor, like, I wouldn't want my mom to be brought back as a robot, or like they say it feels. It doesn't feel. It's a demon. It's like, it's so false, and it gives people a false sense of reality.
I find it very hard to believe that they can download your consciousness from your brain and put it into whatever.
They're playing God.
That's a little far-fetched for me.
It's creepy stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely tied to these next 2 videos that were put out by your father years ago, Jeremiah. And it's the concept of Agenda 2045 and the transhumanist agenda. And I think it's always good to refer back to somebody who is so beyond the cutting edge years ago, because, I mean, literally what we just watched is what he was warning about years ago. So check this out.
Part 19. Has the stage been set for the return of the Nephilim? Well, as we talked about earlier, Yeshua said in Matthew 24:37, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. The days of Noah. The days of Jared were marked by the mating of angels and humans. However, it was in the days of Noah that the creation of animal-human hybrids brought about the corruption of all flesh we read about in Genesis 6:12, which ultimately led to God's judgment with the flood. So if I'm to take Jesus' words in Matthew 24:37 quite literally, all we need to do is turn on the evening news. There we are seeing the repeat, not of angels mating with humans, as in the days of Jared, but rather the recreation of animal-human hybrids exactly as it was in the days of Noah. Remember in Genesis 3, 4, and 5, the promises of the serpent? He says, you know, if you eat of this fruit right here, it says, ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. He had three promises. The three promises of the serpent were a promise of immortality. You're not going to die. No, your eyes are going to be open. You're going to have knowledge. You're going to be like the gods. Well, there's a guy named Professor Nick Bostrom, who's one of the spokespeople for the current transhumanist movement. Listen, remember those three: immortality, eyes open, greater knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and you shall be as gods, as you listen to his own words about transhumanism.
Really interested in is to try to understand the bigger picture for humanity, our place in the world, and what might lie in store for our species in the future, particularly the way we might use technologies to enhance ourselves or to go beyond what we currently think of as our human nature, whether it might be by radically extending the human lifespan through solving the problem of aging, or increasing our intellectual capacities, improving our memory, or taking control of our own emotional states. I think that we are right now in a transitional phase where before the end of this century we will either have gone extinct, or we will have most likely taken the step to become what you might call transhumans or posthumans, or just very enhanced humans that have reached their full potential.
The exact same 3 points in the same order. Wow. This is a graphic on his website, The Appeal of Transhumanism, showing the red circle there in the lower right corner is what he considers, you know, what we can see, hear, taste, touch, smell, the senses that are available to humans. He says the animal kingdom has the larger gray oval there. You know, they can, you know, we have like the radar of a bat or sonar of a dolphin, you know, eyes of an eagle. They have certain abilities that we don't have. So he extends that. He says, but what happens, you know, if we blend animals with humans, we might get this big orange circle there, because we could, you know, bring their attributes into our own. And if we keep doing it, we can enter into post-human phase, and we could have this big area there. That's a big sales pitch right there. You know, by the way, you know, what if you could live 500 years with, you know, no cancer or anything like that? You could be like Wolverine or Spider-Man or, you know, all these things. The sales pitch is right there, and we're being programmed to accept it. You know, look, I confess, I enjoy watching those movies, right? As a kid growing up reading the comic books, who didn't want to be like a superhero? Of course, now the things that I know, I'm going, I don't want to be genetically modified, you know, like they're talking about here. And it's not just the blending of animals. They're also talking about the blending of machines, like Star Trek, the Borg, right? So we can not only enhance ourselves through blending with animal species, we could do it by blending with technology. And we can do cloning. And how many of you have heard of singularity? Singularity, where the machines become smarter than humans. And at that point, it's Skynet and, you know, Terminator, and it just goes on from there. And their publicly stated goal is to achieve immortality, we would say parenthetically apart from God, by the year 2045. And you could go to the website 2045.com, 2045.com, and read about the strategic social initiative that these scientists from all around the world are getting together, and they have strategic markers, and many of them they've already achieved. They had timelines that they had, you know, we want to achieve this by this date, and they did, and they're moving forward, and each progression is leading towards that. The post-human era, where we could be like the gods. Immortality apart from God. Thanks so much for watching.
Way ahead of his time, and now that we're hearing it in actual ongoing developing science and technology, it's like, well, yeah, that's definitely what's coming very soon.
Yeah.
I mean, man, what? I do want to ask Jeremiah, if you were to have any animalistic ability added to you, what would you choose?
That's a good question. And it wasn't like morally or spiritually wrong?
Yeah, if you got a free pass, what would your superpower be?
That's a hard one. I think I'd want to fly. I always have dreams that I'm flying, so like Superman, you know, like just you could just float, fly. What about you?
True. Oh, flying's a good one. Flying's a good one. I think it would be cool to have like the ability to slow time down. But that's not even like an animalistic ability. That's just like we're getting into Marvel now.
Well, unless you're a sloth.
Yeah,
sloths are like that. Their time is very slow, you know.
I want to have the healing like Wolverine.
Yeah, that's a good one. But death is a part of life, and that's important. We may not know it yet, but it is.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, let's watch this one last video. We just recently interviewed classical learner Brett, and he had some really great videos online. You guys are going to see the interview coming up next week. Very great conversation we had with him, and it's really important for us to seize back the education of our children. But he had this short video that had some really common sense points that help make it clear how the public school system gears us up for subservience and obedience, while the more elite schools train their children to be the governing class and the managerial class. So check out the guy that we just interviewed, and get ready for this interview coming up next week. Check this out.
System to give their children an advantage over the rest of ours, because in public schools our children are taught to repeat after the teacher and repeat what's in the textbook. To demonstrate they can do that on a standardized test, and if they can, they get an A+. They are the smart kids, but what they really learned is that truth comes from authority, opposed to the kids of the rich and powerful who learn grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Grammar, up until 5th grade, is the rules of language, and that words have meanings. You have to define your words. Logic, between 5th and 8th grade, logical thinking, basic ABC logic, and the logical fallacies, how to identify common manipulations within arguments. And rhetoric, which is the art form of emotional communication, the art form of persuading. How do you take an argument and win over a crowd? How do you lead a room? So in public school, children are taught to repeat, to follow, and to obey. They are being trained to be the worker class. But in elite schools, children are taught to think, taught to lead, taught to persuade. They are being trained to be the managerial class. Or in other words, they're being trained to be the authorities, and our children are being trained to obey the authorities. But you can even the playing field by teaching your kids the logical fallacies, by having them locate logical fallacies in news articles, by teaching them to get back to primary sources and to fill out discernment charts. So you prompt them to think about what they know and how they know it, what they think they know and why they think that, and what they heard and where they can look. I actually do this by writing fake newspapers for my students and teaching courses on the logical fallacies and of course critical thinking, because there is no reason our kids shouldn't have an elite education. So check out a private homeschool community and Cubs to Bears books. ClassicalLearner.com.
So yeah, that was a great conversation we recently had with classical learner Brett, and it was a really important conversation for today because we have a transition away from the system of government that has been training our children 100 plus years ago. Basically, our society handed over education to the hands of the man, and we were all surprised when he handed our children back to us, and they were all indoctrinated and had some crazy social perspectives that we didn't agree with. And now I think taking that that role back into our hands is really important. And it's surprising to me, Jeremiah, how many people can't break down logical fallacies. They don't understand the generic ways that people manipulate through straw man and falsely representing others, and it's just the system of using systematic logic to educate and prepare people to be smart in all areas instead of just these, repeat back to me situations. I think it's really cool. But did you enjoy talking to Brett? That was really really interesting conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was great because as a kid, being dyslexic, it was harder for me to do school. Like I hated school when I was a kid, which is ironic that I married a teacher, but yeah, I always felt like it was all about memorizing and not about what you actually learn. I learned a lot more and a lot better when I was hands-on, or something that I was actually interested in, and the teachers that actually helped me do that, learn things, were ones that made it interesting for me. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and that's what he's doing. So
when I was in school, I did the same thing Jeremiah was talking about. You basically memorize stuff, and then you take your test, and then after the test is over, you forget everything. But one thing I learned in business was that there's no way in the world that you could know or memorize everything, but if you learn how to do research, do lookup, if you're working on a project, know where to look to find information that you need.
YouTube.
That's the key that I learned.
It's something that we all need to look at again as a culture, because it's obvious sometimes the government doesn't have our best interests at heart, and
sometimes
it's always good to have. Yeah,
do they ever?
I'm from the government. I'm here to help, and that's when you need to not believe a single thing they say.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a cool interview we had. You guys look out for that. Make sure to subscribe and get notified. And this last little clip here is more in terms of just cool man news. This is an entire glacier that just recently collapsed over in Europe. Check this video out. So this collapse happened in Switzerland, and
wait, those aren't the Twin Towers?
Pretty crazy. It does kind of look just like that. There's also some really crazy natural event news happening in Hawaii with like 1,000-foot tall geyser of lava spraying into the air. Have you guys seen some of that footage?
A little bit of it, yeah. So is that ice, snow, or what is that? Just dirt?
Yeah, so it's a glacier, which is ice and snow and probably a lot of dirt and rocks too. But yeah, this literally just collapsed today. Just like, man, look at that! It's just, if you were anywhere near that.
Well, that's why I'm worried about the guy filming. Is they gonna go right over his house? Because it looks like it gets pretty close. That one's great.
So check this video out. It was, this is more tabloid type news, guys. I know, but it's just funny to see. This is the French President Macron getting full-on face slapped in front of all of the media by his wife.
He takes it like a champ.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
Yeah.
You know about the history of their marriage.
Man.
Candace Owens kind of exposed his wife for not really being a woman.
That big tall guy looked like Jaws.
Yeah.
Jaws, like the shark?
No, like in James Bond, Jaws.
Oh, okay, that Jaws. Gotcha.
Anyways, Candace Owens did a whole reporting saying that, kind of proving that his wife is not really a wife, it's a husband. And it's very interesting, and I don't believe that kind of stuff, but she retweeted that and said, boys will be boys. And I was like, that is the most savage reply I've ever seen.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, that was all the news for this week. I did want everybody watching to go and check out my board game at tribethegame.net. I have only a few left of my first edition, so if you guys want to copy, make sure to grab yours today, because pretty soon I'm not going to be announcing the last few copies. I'm going to be announcing the next batch of games and stuff. So if you get a first edition copy, it's going to be a collector item. There's collectible things that I'm including in it. It's very, very worth the cost, and it's a great way to spend time with your family and engage in some strategic gameplay. So make sure to go to tribethegame.net. And that's all, Jeremiah.
All right. Thanks, Jake, for another great current news as always. And now a quick look at our Babylon Rising and our Charlie book combo.
Check out our new and improved BabylonRisingBooks.com, where you can get Rob Skiba's books, bundles, DVDs, DVD-ROMs, videos, and so much more. You can even get Sheila and Jeremiah's books, so check it out now.
Got something in the mail today, so can I open it up? See what it is. Look at that. Charlie, look at this. Look. That's you. Charlie's Big Adventures Around the World. We're gonna flip through it. Look at all that. That looks really good. Look at those things.
Here they are.
The two Danish boys. So now if you guys buy this in our Babylon Rising bookstore, if you buy it from our store, you get a free signed copy for the same price. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you guys want a special edition of the book, go there. So it's about that time for an all new Upla's Corner. Take it away, Upla.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to believe it or not.
Believe it or not, you. Wally, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it! You're a loony.
The dreaded gym class rope climb was actually an Olympic sport until the 1932 games. I would have won the iron medal. Believe it or not. The inflatable pig featured on the cover of Pink Floyd's 1977 Animals album broke free during the photo shoot and caused London's Heathrow Airport to cancel all of its flights. Who said pigs can't fly? Believe it or not. When the Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre in 1911, the empty space left behind drew more visitors than the actual painting ever had up to that point. Wow, such a deep meaning. Believe it or not. President Ulysses S. Grant was once arrested while in office for speeding in his horse-drawn carriage and had to pay a fine of $20. Bad boy, bad boy. Believe it or not. The earliest passenger planes had wicker seats. Now that's what I call a low-cost airline. Believe it or not. Grape nut cereal contains neither grapes nor nuts. As they said in their jingle, fills you up, not out. Believe it or not. Volkswagen cars in 1959 had coffee makers as an optional feature. Cream and sugar, please. Believe it or not. The resealable paint can was patented in 1877 by Henry Sherwin. Believe it or not. The first computer mouse had a wooden casing. Believe it or not. In 1969, the Army Corps of Engineers turned off Niagara Falls. Believe it or not. The first American to relay the news about the death of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin in 1953 was Johnny Cash. While working as a radio operator in the U.S. military, Cash's job was to intercept Soviet messages. Believe it or not. The abbreviation OMG was first used in 1917 by British Admiral John Fisher in a letter to Winston Churchill. OMG. Believe it or not. Pirates wore eye patches not to cover a missing eye, but to help them see in the dark. Aye, matey. Got a match? Believe it or not. Crossword puzzles were banned in Paris, France during World War II in case they were used to pass secret messages to the enemy. 23 down. Name a famous dictator. 6 letters. Believe it or not. Harrison Ford was once a roadie for the band The Doors.
True.
Believe it or not.
What did one ocean say to the other ocean?
What?
Nothing, they just waved.
I know a lot of jokes about retired people, but none of them work.
What did one wall say to the other?
What?
I'll meet you at the corner.
Hey, what did the bison say to his son when he left the ranch?
What?
Bye, son.
I'm gonna tell him no.
What has 5 toes, but isn't your foot? I don't know. My foot. I only know 25 letters of the alphabet. I don't know why.
That Trump one is so funny.
Dad,
Looking.
explain to me what a solar eclipse is. No, son. Hey, what do you feed an alligator? What? Anything it wants.
You call an alligator in a vest?
What?
An investigator.
I told my wife she should embrace her mistakes. She gave me a hug.
Why don't elephants use computer?
Why?
They're afraid of the mouse.
Why don't eggs tell jokes? Why? They might crack up.
I asked my dog what's 2 minus 2. He said nothing.
Want to hear a joke about construction?
Yeah.
I'm still working on it.
I'm lactose intolerant. This guy is gluten intolerant. And the guy on the end is just intolerant. My guest is the kitten my humans brought home yesterday. Let's get to know him. But first, I'm going to do a lot of hissing. There's no handle. You need to download the Flush Me app. Well, I've got good GNUs and I've got bad GNUs. Man, Bernie, you're a mess. You ain't itching anywhere, are you? Man, I had a cast on my leg years ago, and boy, did it itch. Drove me crazy. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause you can't scratch it, you know. Don't think about itching anywhere, Bernie, 'cause it'll drive you nuts. Okay, boys, that'll be enough. We don't allow gunplay in this town. Young ants entertaining themselves with a grape. Oh, that one was close. Lego Inc. Congratulations on your new job. Your first order of business is to build your office furniture.
What's that?
Hell. I just clocked you going faster than a... dang. What's that expression? Well, anyway, you were going really fast. Kid shows that bombed. The Arachnoteers. Hi, I'm Rusty. Thank heaven the plumber knows CPR. Cheeto. Final exam today.
Psst. What's the answer to question 1?
Employees must wash hands. I'll wait 5 more minutes. If no one comes, I'll wash them myself. Excuse me, but I think you're in my seat.
That'd be nice.
Fellas, it sounded great, but I gotta have more doorbell. Rooster trainees.
Sorry I'm late again, guys. My bad. Anyway, squawk-a-diddle-dee. No, that's not it. A cocky doddle duty. Wait a minute, I'll get it.
Just come out and talk. I promise I won't wish for anything. Love everyone, no matter what.
What if they have tattoos?
Yes, even if they ask stupid questions. When I die, I want a closed casket funeral.
So, toilet seat down.
Correct. One phrase you don't want to hear on a blind date.
Hey, I made that license plate.
'76th Annual Catty Awards. My 5th grade teacher always believed in my ability to not do anything. This laziest cat award is for you, Miss Furrington.
Charlie should have won.
Mayflower Life Insurance. According to our background check, you missed 7 days of kindergarten due to illness. That puts you in our high-risk category. The real reason dentists have lots of money.
Gross.
You left me for Brownie? Who the is Brownie? No, you idiot. It says I left you 4 brownies. Heaven. Hunting permits. Yeah, I'd like to go down and scare the heck out of my jerky ex-boss until he cries like a whimpering dork that he is. Congratulations, Vera and Craig. As his blind date reached the bottom of the stairs, Craig's feelings of apprehension quickly turned to sheer panic. The Kittles.
I'd buy that one.
Laughing out loud is forbidden in Hawaii because it's Aloha State.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hätt er nicht 3 Ecken, dann wäre es auch nicht mein Hut.
Opa's Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great Opa's Corner. I don't know what kind of theremin that was. That's what those are called, I think, right?
What?
A theremin that...
Oh no, that was playing a saw.
Oh, okay. Well, learn something new every time on Opa's Corner, so thank you, Opa. This week's History's Mysteries is brought to you by our friend Kristen, so check this out. I want to introduce you guys to somebody named Kristen, who's one of the biggest forces behind Skiba News Nation. This is Kristen. She helps us get all the big guests. I understand that you're doing this full time now, so how can people find out how to use your service?
Well, I started Fellow Helper Agency, and you can go to fellowhelperagency.com. And I do any of the behind the scenes, email, getting the interviews, and I do prep work for the shows as well. I do timestamps and moderating.
She is the best with connects. If you like any of our shows, any of our big guests, she's the person to go to. And if you have a channel, definitely go to our website. So go check out fellowhelperagency.com. It's time for an all new History's Mysteries. So this week's History's Mysteries, we're going to be talking about Ernest Hemingway and also connecting it with another example of why and how context matters. Like, why does it matter? So let's first learn about who Ernest Hemingway was. He was one of the most famous American writers of all time. He was more than just a writer. He won a Nobel Prize. I don't know the difference. I'm sure there is. But his life was full of love, loss, travel, danger, and mystery. But he was a person. A lot of people see famous people as just, something above being just a normal person. But I want to play this first clip that will kind of explain who Ernest Hemingway was. So let's play that clip.
Nobel Prize in Literature.
Right.
Ernest Hemingway wasn't just an immensely talented author, he was also an icon of 20th century bullishness and masculinity, a surprisingly sensitive soul, and one of the most beautiful, awful, and intriguing figures in literary history. Hemingway's life may not have been the longest, but it was filled with drama, driven by ambition, and streaked with blood.
I believe that love that is true and real creates a respite from death. All cowardice comes from not loving or not loving well, which is the same thing.
Wounds from childhood and war. Hemingway's mother was gripped by a desperation to have twin children. In order to feed her fantasies, she often dressed the young Ernest up in clothes identical to his sisters, referring to them both as her sweet Dutch dollies. Just why little Ernestine, as his mother often referred to him, became so obsessed with masculinity is surely no surprise. The outbreak of conflict in Europe during 1914 marked the beginning of Hemingway's first war. He volunteered in France for the Red Cross before becoming an ambulance driver for U.S. forces after their entry into the war in 1917. In July 1918, Hemingway was struck by shrapnel from an Austrian mortar shell while serving in Italy. His experience in Italy would lay the foundations of the plot for his novel, A Farewell to Arms, arguably one of his finest works, The Golden Age of Paris. It's difficult to think of Hemingway without seeing Paris. He was one of the elite group of writers, artists, musicians, and thinkers who lived in the city during its golden age, a period masterfully captured in Hemingway's final book, A Movable Feast. Hemingway and his first wife, Hadley Richardson, soon befriended a number of local personalities, such as Gertrude Stein, Ezra Pound, Pablo Picasso, and James Joyce.
You're too self-effacing. It's not manly. If you're a writer, declare yourself the best writer. But you're not as long as I'm around, unless you want to put the gloves on and settle it.
But in 1927, Hemingway's marriage came to an end when Hadley discovered his affair with a fashion reporter named Pauline Pfeiffer. They divorced, and Hemingway married Pfeiffer later that year. In 1928, Ernest and Pauline Hemingway moved to Key West, Florida. Papa Hemingway and his mutant cats. The Hemingway home is one of Florida's most well-known sites and tourist destinations. It was Pauline's Uncle Gus who purchased for them their now legendary house on Whitehead Street. The extraordinarily beautiful house, which was also extraordinarily expensive, is still filled with the Hemingways' own personal touches. These include trophies from foreign expeditions, a writing studio, and a unique breed of six-toed mutant tomcats descended from Hemingway's own pets. The fight against fascism. In 1937, Hemingway traveled to Spain to report on the Spanish Civil War, a devastating conflict between governmental Republicans and Franco's fascists. For the North American Newspaper Alliance, naturally, he couldn't resist getting involved. Hemingway paid to send ambulances to Spain, produced and narrated a pro-Republican documentary, and is even thought to have fought behind fascist lines. The war put a strain on Hemingway's marriage with Pauline, who was a devout Catholic and a fascist sympathizer. He soon fell in love with the woman who would become his next wife, Martha Gellhorn. After a painful and dramatic split with Pauline, Hemingway and Martha married and bought a home together just outside Havana.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Evan. Cheers. Cheers, I guess.
A madcap war. For Hemingway, the Second World War was a little more colorful than the first. He first approached Cuba's U.S. ambassador and offered to set up a spy network to monitor Nazi sympathizers on the island. His team of undercover operatives included waiters, fishermen, prostitutes, aristocrats, and priests. Hemingway then requested a supply of bazookas, hand grenades, machine guns, and radio equipment from the embassy, all with the intention of using his fishing boat to hunt German submarines in the Caribbean. Hemingway and his Rough Riders never quite managed to sink a U-boat, however, and Martha Gellhorn considered the enterprise no more than an excuse for Hemingway and his pals to waste fuel and go drinking.
Not a bad way to start the day, huh?
Hemingway finally topped it all when he liberated the bar of the Paris Ritz, days after the Germans had already left, by showing up with a jeep and a machine gun, demanding entry, and racking up a tab for 51 dry martinis. The Nobel Prize. Having divorced Martha during World War II, Hemingway returned to Cuba to live with his latest wife, Mary. In 1954, he received literature's highest honor, the Nobel Prize. According to the New York Times, he was granted the prize for his powerful, style-forming mastery of the art of modern narration. As most recently evinced in The Old Man and the Sea, 6 years later, Hemingway and Mary left Cuba and moved to Idaho. His last days. The 1960s saw Hemingway endure a steep decline in both his physical and mental health. Eventually, he checked into the Mayo Clinic in order to receive electroshock therapy for his growing paranoia and anxiety. But it didn't help. Despite further treatment at the clinic, Hemingway's suicidal tendencies worsened considerably, and on July 2nd, 1961, Hemingway shot himself with his favorite shotgun. At the time of his death, Hemingway had published 7 novels, married 4 women, fought in 3 wars, and survived 2 plane crashes. He was buried in Ketchum, Idaho, but his legacy as a man whose life was larger and stranger than the fiction he wrote has lived on for years afterward.
Now, he did a lot of good things, but he was also a man. You know, every man has his faults, but one thing I really respect about him is he was kind of like the OG Andrew Tate. Some of the similarities are like masculinity they believe in anti-weakness, and, you know, their opinions were very controversial. But Ernest Hemingway was just an amazing writer who changed so much of how people wrote in a simple way. And you know, it's sad that he ended up taking his own life. So now I'm going to be talking about how the mainstream media during the Me Too movement tried to attack his legacy, attack his name, and basically took his whole work and trying to think of a good way to put it. They shit on it. They shit on his legacy. So let's play that clip.
With
Ernest Hemingway, there was the writer, the man, and then the image. So what to make of his tumultuous private life during this era of Me Too? Mark Whitaker is talking with the makers of a new PBS documentary.
I was a little intimidated to pick up a book by Ernest Hemingway.
Lynn Novick, like a lot of us, first read Hemingway when she was in high school.
I just got sucked into it immediately and mesmerized by the writing and the characters and the world.
4 decades later, Novick has joined Ken Burns to make a new 6-hour documentary about Hemingway for PBS. It follows their films on other not-so-small topics, the Vietnam War, baseball, and jazz.
He is the seminal writer in the 20th century for Americans.
The old man was thin and gaunt, with deep wrinkles in the back of his neck.
In the new film, Jeff Daniels is the voice of Hemingway. This is from The Old Man and the Sea.
Everything about him was old, except his eyes, and they were the same color as the sea, and were cheerful and undefeated.
Those of you who know Hemingway or think you know Hemingway will get a new aspect to it. Those of you who don't, buckle your seatbelts.
We all know the Hemingway image, the very definition of macho, war correspondent, deep-sea fisherman, bullfighting aficionado, big game hunter.
Hemingway is so much the poster boy for toxic masculinity and misogyny and a little bit of racism kind of thrown in there,
scary.
Too. Well, you know, his public image is really a problem in a lot of ways for this moment. I think a lot of us will look at a man who seems to be glorifying bullfighting and killing animals for sport and being dominant in physical conquest and having women be subservient to you. And his public persona is challenging at best and problematic.
He could be the life of the party, but also treacherous to his friends and during his 4 marriages. His third wife was Martha Gellhorn. She was a war correspondent in her own right who convinced Hemingway to join her in going to Europe to cover World War II.
So he gets a ticket on a plane, but he said, oh no, they're not letting any women, even though there were 2 British women on that plane. She had to take a Norwegian cargo ship and go across the North Atlantic, a very dangerous thing to do in the days leading up to D-Day. And as she said, nothing beats it for sheer bitchery. That really at times characterizes Ernest Hemingway in all sorts of ways. He could be a real bitch.
The documentary examines Hemingway's relationships with women in real life and in the pages of his writing.
Here he is, this misogynist, macho guy, the kind of toxic masculine character who nonetheless in stories like Up in Michigan or Hills Like White Elephants is able to put himself into the mind and the experiences of a woman and do so in an incredibly surprising way. And at other points, he's himself interested in role reversals. He wants all of his 4 wives to cut their hair short, like boys. He wants to grow hairs long. He wants to change things up.
Hemingway wanted his wife to be both completely obedient and sexually loose, she confided to her diary.
In life, and in novels like The Garden of Eden, which was published after he died, Hemingway seemed to have a fascination with androgyny and sexual role reversals.
She enjoyed the sexual part, cut her hair short, and bleached it platinum because it excited him, and sometimes pretended that she was a boy and he was a girl.
Beneath this sort of masculine facade, he seems really drawn to a more complicated sexuality and sexual experience and intimate life than many of us would have thought.
So ultimately, what are you trying to say? Like, did Papa Hemingway secretly want to be a Mama Hemingway?
I don't think we really know that. When he and his 4th wife, Mary, go to Africa in the 50s, he writes something in her diary, and he says that Mary is a prince of devils, and anywhere you touch her can kill both her and me. And he's writing to her in her diary.
Right.
And then he says, she wants me to be her girls, which I love to do, and she to be my boy. And we've solved all our problems, and I've never been happier.
Right. What does that mean?
I don't know. What do you think it means?
It definitely means that he wasn't just, you know, the macho man that everybody kind of thinks of him as being.
I don't think we should imagine Hemingway in the missionary position all the time.
Then there's the question of racism. He occasionally drops the N-word, and his depictions of Native Americans, African Americans, and Jews have been criticized.
Was he ignorant, or were his characters ignorant?
His characters were ignorant.
Mark Dudley is an English professor at North Carolina State University who has written about Hemingway.
But he himself knew what he was writing about and was trying to convey a message that might not have been immediately obvious.
Always. Nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not going to stand out in front and center and try to be a Hemingway apologist for some of those things that he does in his writing. I would say push pause before we want to indict this artist.
The headlines are filled these days with stories of so-called cancel culture as history is reappraised.
So we live in an era where a lot of powerful figures of the past, most of them white men, some statues are being taken down, their names are being taken off of buildings, writers are being taken out of curriculums. Why hasn't Hemingway been canceled, and why shouldn't he be canceled?
That is the best question. I've thought the very same thing over the last couple of years. When is Hemingway and this discussion of his so-called cancellation going to be on the table? But I say that he has lasting power or staying power for a reason. And it's not simply because of the color of his skin. It's because he's a master craftsman. He is around because he means something as an artist.
Hemingway led a vibrant life of worldwide fame and soaring literary success. But he was also haunted by alcoholism, a family history of mental illness, and as the new documentary lays out, a series of concussions suffered during war, accidents, and plane crash. It was a complicated life, and Ernest Hemingway died by suicide at the age of 61.
After spending all of this time with him, did you like him more? Did you like him less?
I feel like I got to know him as a person, and I didn't expect that. He's so larger than life and had his own really deep struggles. I mean, he really suffered a lot emotionally in ways that I would never have understood. I also find parts of him and parts of his behavior just awful, truly awful. I would never have wanted to be married to him.
I find those people very, very awful because not only are they demonizing something like masculinity, they're demonizing and changing history. I mean, also, like, it's not right to destroy a man's whole legacy after he's passed. He can't speak for himself, so they're now making it in the history books to where, oh, he's a racist, oh, he's this, he's that. And he did have problems. I mean, everybody has problems. That's the whole point. It's all like, it all kind of connects. It's like where context matters. The facts matter. Not your opinions, you crazy lady, but your opinion. I mean, what do you think, Jake? It's just mind-blowing to me that they continue to demonize people for masculinity, for all this kind of stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I've never really read Hemingway's works, and maybe I should. All I know of him is how he's depicted in movies. Oftentimes, he's always the guy who's the womanizer. He's always kind of like drinking a lot, but he's always got kind of that manly gravitas in everything he says and does, and at least the movies that I've seen. And it really is interesting in some of the segments you were showing how they're demonizing him for being a misogynist and toxic masculine or whatever, but then they're also like propping him up as, oh, but he was also into gender reversal, and so it was like
it doesn't make any sense.
They're trying to play both sides.
Yeah, and his story is very tragic. I mean, at the first clip, his mom used to dress him up like a girl because she wanted twin girls, and call him Ernesta or something like that. And so he dealt with like very intense struggles, and so I think that's why he drifted towards masculinity, and why he was like, no, I'm a man. You know, I have problems, but I'm a man. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Opa?
Well, one thing I find is ironic is that the first document, or the first clip that you played, they said that he was a devout Catholic. So if he had so many marriages, that doesn't seem that it kind of fits. The other thing is in, when I was going to school, we had to read several of Hemingway's books, and they were very good books, and they were books from his time. And so a lot of what was in his books kind of reflected what was going on around that particular time. So now they're banning his books from the school because they're trying to rewrite history. Like they're taking down all of the Confederate statues and stuff like that. They're taking Hemingway away from the book, from the schools and everything, so that they're trying to erase history.
Yeah, and they're total hypocrites. Why can't we take down the statues of Martin Luther King Jr. after all the stuff that's come out about him, or any of these other people? It's just like, we would never do that because that's a part of history. I mean, it's the writings are from the times. It's like, you can't learn about history. I mean, it's just, it makes me so angry listening to people like, because I've dealt with it, people talking about my dad and stuff that is totally not true, and other people believing it as fact, and it's just so wrong. It is so wrong, and every time I try to fight it, it doesn't. It's so stupid. They should just let the man rest. Like, read his work, and if you don't agree with it, don't agree with it. But you don't have to tear down his whole legacy.
It reminds me of something very interesting. It's the bullwhip effect of his mother pushing on androgynous behavior and cross-dressing on him as a child, pushed him into super masculinity. And it makes me think about this generation where we've had so many parents pushing children towards the transgender lifestyle, and it makes me wonder if we're not about to see a new generation of Hemingway type young people.
I hope so.
Just because of the same pattern of when this ideology is pushed, perhaps it's leading to, the next Ernest Hemingway is in high school right now going, I'm so sick of being told I can be a dragon with,
yeah.
I'm so sick of being told my penis means nothing,
like, cut it off. But it's just that second clip really made me angry because they were making a documentary based on what they think about him, not what they know about him. Those are facts and those are feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. So, I mean, it's another reminder to always do your own research and don't believe everything you hear, because that is the most important message I'm trying to convey with this particular topic. But yeah, that's that. But I will share with you guys my favorite part of Hemingway's legacy. And if I ever have another cat, I'm gonna name him Hemingway, maybe. So let's roll that clip.
Or Ernest.
I like Hemingway.
Ernest Hemingway was, in the minds of many, the last of a particular breed of man's man. He was a Pulitzer and Nobel Prize winner. After being turned down by every branch of the military on account of his poor eyesight, he worked as an ambulance driver during World War I, then as a reporter during the Spanish Civil War and World War II, coming within spitting distance of the Normandy landings and leading a French resistance militia. More than a half century after he took his own life on July 2nd, 1961, he remains the quintessential 20th century icon of liquored-up American masculinity.
Hopefully.
And his writing lives on as an inseparable aspect of Western culture. Oh, and six-toed cats are named for him because they have totally overrun his house. Yes, it's super
Nephilim
weird,
cats.
but totally true. His home in Key West, which now exists as a museum dedicated to the writer's memory, is home to a multitude of six-toed cats. What's going on there? Well, while most cats only have 5 toes on each front paw and 4 on each back paw, there exists a genetic abnormality called polydactyly, in which cats are born with extra toes. And according to the Hemingway Home Museum, that was the case with Hemingway's cat Snow White, aka Snowball, which the author received as a gift back in the 1930s. From what can be gathered about Snow White's life, the kitty was down for whatever, and he spread his genetic whatnots all across Key West, making sure not to forget that sweet, sweet polydactyly gene. As a result, dozens of cats now residing at the Hemingway home all either possess extra toes or are very likely to pass the trait on to their offspring.
We have 48 cats on the property today. Half of them have the physical trait, the actual 6 toes, but they all carry that recessive gene in the DNA.
Fortunately, polydactyly isn't dangerous, and it doesn't usually cause the cats any pain or other health issues, which is good because some cats with the condition have more than just 6 toes. The Guinness World Record holders are a pair of felines who have a total of 28 toes instead of the 18. Also called mitten cats, thumb cats, or, appropriately, Hemingway cats, these animal X-Men have a storied history. According to the Straight Dope, they may have been a rarity for years, due to their perceived association with witchcraft leading to a whole lot of cat hunting. Sailors, however, apparently thought they brought good luck, and a trade route between England and Massachusetts seems to have been what brought them to the United States and gave them an over-toed foothold, genetically speaking. Today, the cats of the Ernest Hemingway Home and Museum live a series of 9 charmed lives each. Following the tradition initiated by Hemingway, all of the sweet kitties are named after famous people, with museum staff deciding new additions' names by vote. Past names have included Cary Grant, Marilyn Monroe, and Harry Truman. The cats also receive top-of-the-line care, undergoing annual checkups on top of weekly wellness checks from a local veterinarian, and even safely riding out destructive hurricanes. Still, it's an unwritten law of nature that any house with pets numbering in the double digits is going to wind up with a well-intentioned neighbor calling the authorities, and in the early 2000s, that's exactly what happened. According to NPR, a visitor to the Hemingway Museum called in a complaint, citing concerns about the welfare of the house's multitude of many-toed cats. The situation escalated into a federal case, and its eventual outcome led to a bonkers moment in feline history. It was decided that since the cats drew interstate business to the museum, their well-being fell under the jurisdiction of the federal government, which means when it comes to the cats of Hemingway House, Uncle Sam has the authority to show up and demand that one of them needs more belly scratches. Yes, he does.
3 words. I need one. Okay, so if anybody that's watching can help me get a Hemingway cat, I would be very appreciative, because it's a part of history and it's awesome. You know, are they Nephilim, or how does that work?
Polydactyli is what the Nephilim allegedly had, you know, multiple fingers and toes. I love that term, polydactyli. I just want to say it over and over.
Sounds like a dinosaur.
But yeah, I hear if you say it in the woods too many times, Bigfoot shows up, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah, for sure. But those are cool little cats, and I think they're so cool. I'm going to have to go to Key West, Florida to go check them out. But yeah, that's all I got for Ernest Hemingway. I hope it made sense, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But I have one last clip, and it's my all-new segment of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor. So check this out. Look at that.
I see trees of green, and over the sea, I see the moon.
Blackface.
You, and I think to myself,
sure,
what a wonderful world.
Again, we're here. Very quick, very effective.
Let's go back and see how John is doing. John, you just about crashed into the Empire State Building.
Hey, that would be cool. I don't think I could make it on the outside.
You're welcome. Hey, can you share with us today why you would like to be baptized?
Because I used to be a piece of
And I love it. And the grave clothes are coming off today.
Smokey needs to go home and sleep. That's a skin robot, I bet.
Watch out!
Hey guys, safety is important, but don't do anything you see on this video.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Do you have time to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Hey, don't run from the Lord!
I ain't got a good brain.
I think you've got a fine brain, Jack.
You make me happy.
So I'm gonna sneak one that I've played every episode into it, and you guys tell me which one it was. But what was you guys' favorite? Jake?
Yeah, I think that clip of the make me that was Tropic Thunder, right?
Yeah, that was Simple Jack.
Simple Jack.
Yeah.
Never go full retard.
And that's what she did, and that's why it's funny. Well, which one? What about you, Uppa?
I like the cat, but boy, some of those were.
You mean the Hitler cat?
Yeah, the Hitler cat. but some of those were kind of like I don't know.
What, dark?
A little dark.
I mean, that is why I call it Please Excuse My Sense of Humor, because it is dark. Some people get it, some people don't. But I hope you guys enjoyed. So, do you got memes for me, Jake?
Yeah, we got some.
All right, meme me up. Meme me up.
Meme time. Democrats warn abolishing Department of Education could result in kids being too smart to vote for Democrats. Ah. In my country, I'm forced to keep my mouth shut. So I trash talk your country until you change it into a country where I am forced to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, deport her.
Thank you for your 73% of Americans approve of the Department of Government Efficiency. It's
Wow.
working. It's a shame our GOP doesn't care. Real number is 100% without liberal operatives.
Yep.
Yep. Hey, the Nike swoosh. Nike just announced that they won't build factories in the U.S. or employ American workers to make their sneakers. They currently spend roughly $3 to make a shoe that they then sell for $100 plus. Nike employees what amounts to slave labor in Vietnam to make billions on American consumers. No American should ever buy Nike products ever.
Yeah. I mean, what about the
But
ones
you
they
can
already own?
definitely get yeah, you can definitely get into the aftermarket wearing the cool Back to the Future Nike sneakers. I think
Okay.
that's
Thank you.
acceptable because I think that's aftermarket. That's like specialty. It's kind of like buying a Kanye West sneaker. It's not really Nike, but you know, it's yeah. All
For
right,
sure.
so here we see Chuck Norris's grandmother doing her daily tasks.
I thought that was Barbara Bush. I'm not even kidding.
I think it kind of does look like Barbara Bush. But in that same line of thought, just so you guys know, Chuck Norris has a diary, and it's called the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's good.
You know, growing up, Chuck Norris was such a major part of my schoolboy humor, and I'm trying to bring it back because I think this next generation has probably forgotten. But I remember those days watching Walker, Texas Ranger.
I'd love to get him on the show.
Yeah, we met him in a movie theater.
Does he live there nearby in Dallas?
Not anymore, but he did. He lived up in Plano somewhere at one point in time. And Rob and Sheila and me and Jeremiah were watching a movie, and they were sitting right in front of us.
So
That's
there,
so cool.
There he was, right in front of us, and we were like, "Oh, don't kick us!" No, I'm just kidding. He's really nice.
And very short.
So, Democrats be like, still better than Trump.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Check this out. This is the variety of unicorns that exist. This is the unicorn. This is the heavy assault unicorn. And this is the high-speed submersible unicorn.
Ooh.
And I share this this topic of unicorns because, give me a second, I want to show you guys a special thing.
Ooh, special things. I like special things. Please be a unicorn.
So,
please be a unicorn.
Yeah. I have made my daughter her very own unicorn.
Nice.
Not the magical kind, just the blood-soaked battle warrior kind.
Dude, let's make a children's book about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I 3D printed this and then I hand painted it, and it's for my daughter Aaliyah. She's pretty excited that her father can fabricate anything in her imagination. So I've been cranking these babies out.
How big can your 3D printer make? How big could it make, like, size-wise?
Yeah, probably maybe like 8 inches, 8 by 6, and then probably yay tall at the max.
That's pretty cool. You can make some really cool stuff with 3D. I mean, we could print a house, one brick at a time with your 3D printer.
One single brick at a time. That's
Yeah.
so true. So yeah, just to wrap up with the one last meme for the day. Just a good reminder: live for what tomorrow can bring, not for what yesterday has taken away. So While time's speeding by very quickly and our memories and moments are sifting through our fingers like sand on a beach, never forget, there's a beautiful tomorrow coming. Just you got to have a vision for it.
Yep.
There's a big, bright, wonderful. What? Trying to remember the Disney thing.
Yeah, the Carousel of Progress. Good theme song. But yeah, thank you, Jake, for another great current news and memes as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opa's Corner, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Ross Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like I don't even want to wake up.